Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's lovely to be here to talk to you about a fantastic city which has now been part of my life for 3 or 4 years at Foster and Partners. Before I get into my presentation, the Commissioner has kindly asked me just to give you a few high-level facts and figures about the project for those who are not necessarily familiar with it. So that's a little bit impromptu, so if you'll bear with me. So it is the people's capital. It is the capital of Andhra Pradesh. The bifurcated state, and which was left without a capital when it was split from Telangore. It's now a little bit on India. India is the sixth largest economy by GDP, one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and actively climbing in ease of doing business scores. And I believe from some information that I've been reading recently, most of the growth in cities is forecast to be in India now because of the way that the economy is growing so dynamically. What's been wonderful about Amravati is it's always had this kind of grounding in the happy city vision, and that's been extremely important to everybody in developing the ideas of the city, and very much at the forefront of our client's mind. And our client certainly has the people of Andhra Pradesh very much at the centre of his mind. So to them, happy city means good governance, which has been very carefully set up, care for culture and community, care for the natural environment, looking towards economy and livelihoods, an excellent built environment, and then physical and mental well-being. So really healthy people and healthy planet has underlined everything, which I think has been fantastic. It's about 217 square kilometres, and I'll get onto some of the other statistics in my presentation for you. The largest ever successfully and voluntary land pooled scheme that has been undertaken in the way that the land has been put together, which has been great. A lot of thought on blue-green environment and building sustainability and resilience, which I will talk about a little bit more in a minute. Use of technology for good and efficient governance, and interestingly, it'll be the first city to have a fully BIM-based building permit system when it comes into, as it goes through construction. A lot of virtual reality and other such technologies are being used, and it will be very economically productive. So it's a fantastic project. It's now into construction and will go on for construction for another 10 or so years, 15 years as it is built out. So I think that's just by way of a little background for you all. So if I may now just jump to my presentation. So there is the city at 217 square kilometres. Foster and Partners were not the master planners for the city. That was Zubara Jurong from Singapore. But we were invited to be the master planners for the government complex, which is the central stripe there that I've highlighted. That's about 1,850 acres. Its job basically is to be the seat of government within Amravati, so the legislature and high court buildings will be there, the secretariat will be there, and the places and spaces that those that work there for them to live. But we were also very keen that it was a vibrant area, not a kind of a daytime, nighttime place which was dead at night. So there's a lot of commercial and residential in the scheme to activate it and to make it vibrant all the time. It stretches from the banks of the Krishna River in the north down to a reservoir in the south. That's a quick shot along the longitudinal axis of the scheme. The ceremonial centre, the heart of the scheme, with the legislature building in the distance. The ambitions for sustainability were high at the beginning. There's a pretty mature system now, Griha, that has been worked very hard on in India, which has learned from a lot of the other systems worldwide. The exceptional buildings are being done to 5-star Griha, and all the rest to 3. And there was a very good city vision, which was Sunrise Andhra Pradesh. In fact, it was for the whole state, which we looked at carefully, and it envisaged what happens out to 2029. So we spent a lot of time with the client understanding their long-term ambitions of that, distilling from that the 8 or 9 key themes that drove the whole economy and the development of Andhra Pradesh at the high level, and then focusing in on 8 or 9 metrics which we thought could really drive the built environment development through the design process. These are those. There was to be a high emphasis on the balance between built up and non-built up, that's green and blue. There had to be a strong celebration of the heritage of Andhra Pradesh. We had to piggyback on the Make in India approach and use materials as much as possible from within India. A very connected community, high levels of comfort when you're outside the buildings, an easily walkable city. We honed in also on a net zero energy strategy, halving water demand in comparison to alternatives, and a smart city approach. So those were the things that we thought could help measure the way that the city went forward. This was all unfolding at the same time as the Paris Agreement, something that we had put a lot of thought into, and understanding what that meant to the shape of the world to come. And I think that this project is leading the way as one of the first to respond to that. And basically the Paris Agreement, the articles of the Paris Agreement say, think very carefully about the amount of carbon that you're putting into the atmosphere, because we don't want more than 1.5 or 2 degrees of temperature rise. And one of the articles forces you really to think very carefully about the ecological footprint. How are you using the world and the world's resources at the same time to bring those into balance? So what we did is we developed some techniques to use with the client and with our designers, where we could focus in quite forensically on those 9 themes continuously, and that we could actually feed the drawings in at the end of every day, update them, understand whether the metrics were simultaneously going in the right direction. So here I've taken 3 or 4. We're looking at the KPAs around local culture, where the cultural buildings and facilities were going. So demonstrating that we had them in mind and that they were easy to find in discussions. We also looked quite carefully, as I said earlier, at the balance of blue-green, and we densified the development and actually overshot the target. We have 144% of the target we set ourselves in terms of the blue-green spine. We wanted an easily walkable city, and we looked very carefully at the modalities for movement to ensure that they, within 300 meters of any building, you had several modalities of choice, so as you could easily get around. And then we set ourselves a fairly ambitious net zero, and this was net zero not just in operation of buildings, this was building the buildings and in mobility in the future, working out the balance of what we could achieve on-site and what we had to provide off-site with wider renewable energy facilities elsewhere in Andhra Pradesh, which will be built as part of their move towards renewable energy. So that was pulling things together. India's ecological footprint at the moment is about 0.6, and its fair Earth share would be 1 as a planet. Andhra Pradesh's view is that they want to get towards that. The city will be about 1, we think, when it is finished. The government complex at the moment is about 1.1 planets, so it's set in the way because of the features that we're building into it. What we worked at very hard was to make it very dense. That helped to get the eco-footprint down. We wanted to make the right choices in materials so that keeps the eco-footprint down. We reduce the consumption of energy, and then we have the excellent mobility and ultimately the means of delivering fossil fuel-free mobility as we go forward. So this is a little film that just kind of pulls
on the
it
banks
together.
of the River Krishna, in the new state of Andhra Pradesh, a new future is born. Amaravati, the people's capital. Irrigated with an abundance of recycled water, a green spine runs from the river edge, dictating the sustaining grid of the city. Formed around 13 urban plazas representing the state districts of Andhra Pradesh, a powerful celebration of an ancient past, defining what is to become the most beautiful and sustainable city of tomorrow. Flowing waterways, green open spaces, the highest standards of sustainability, an environment designed with people at its heart. The vision for the government complex to be energy self-sufficient, made possible by generating 100% renewable energies from the latest technologies. Solar energy will sustain a transportation system comprised of e-buses, metros, water taxis and bicycles. Better connected, cleaner, healthier. A city that is smart, created using local materials and local expertise. Every building certified for sustainability. The legislature stands proud at the heart of the Amaravati government city, with viewing decks and a museum open to the public, an icon of the state, a symbol of the future. Inspired by the traditional stupa, the High Court is a democratic and cultural landmark for the people. Elegant horizontal fins, an open roof, natural ventilation, yet protected from the rain and sun. 5 graceful towers form the Secretariat and government heads of department, surrounded by public squares, with the Palavagu waterway running through its heart. Amaravati is the people's capital, at the forefront of a nation's mission and a beacon to the rest of the world.
So it was largely about the master plan. The buildings now, the iconic first buildings, are well under design. And indeed moving into the construction and procurement phase, so that's coming on very quickly. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be involved with it, and that's really all we have to say at this opening stage of our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trott.